Hello and welcome to Straight Talk with PC. In today's episode, we will discuss the bizarre diktat of the Bar Council of India and its attempt to weaponize professional enrollment to penalize the NALSAR graduating batch of 2026. It is a direct assault on free speech and a flagrant overreach of regulatory power. In the next subject that you're going to be taking up for this week is from Lenin to Lenin. For decades, the Red Corridor was a wound on a map, a landscape defined by isolation, fear, and the clatter of gunfire. But on National Handloom Day in Raipur, that sound was officially replaced by the rhythmic beat of a different kind. The steady, confident footfalls of women who have walked out of the shadows of terror and into the sunlight of a new India. On August 12, 2026, a statutory parliamentary inquiry committee tabled a report in the Lok Sabha on Justice Yashwant Varma. The verdict: all charges of gross misconduct stand proved against the former Delhi and Allahabad High Court judge. The catch: he has stepped down before the verdict. What's next for him? You would know soon, coming from the Parliament. The latest monsoon session was billed as a crucial battleground for national issues, from the NEET paper leaks to a Ram Mandir loot discussion. Instead, it ended in a total washout. During this 19-day monsoon session, the Lok Sabha functioned for just 15% of its scheduled time. The Rajya Sabha fared slightly better, but still only managed 33%. We take a deep dive in the ailing parliamentary system and a clash of egos that led to this jam. All this and more on Straight Talk with PC. Now imagine for a minute spending 5 of your toughest years studying the Constitution, dissecting liberties, dissecting your duties, and preparing to enter the noble profession of law to seek justice for your clients. Then, days before you graduate, a statutory body sweeps in and threatens to extinguish your career before it has even begun. Why? Because you dared to disagree. Because you exercise the exact constitutional rights you were taught to defend. This is exactly what happened to the 2026 graduating batch of NALSAR University of Law, Hyderabad. The Bar Council of India issued an unprecedented directive halting the professional enrollment of an entire batch of law graduates. And what was their crime, you wonder? It was just a peaceful internal representation opposing an invitation to Chief Justice of India, Justice Suryakant, to be the chief guest at their convocation. Think about the sheer disproportion move that was made by the Bar Council of India. It's a statutory regulator treating the career of hundreds of young students as collateral damage, all to soothe a fragile institutional ego, or perhaps an ego in the mind of the chairman, who is heading BCI. It was spiteful, it was vindictive, and it was prima facie indefensible. But let's talk about who calls the shots at the BCI. The man behind this draconian decree is Manan Kumar Mishra. He isn't just a regular legal administrator. He is also a sitting BJP MP in the Rajya Sabha. So when a ruling party politician masquerades as an independent legal regulator, he is using his state-backed authority to blackball a whole batch of dissenting students. It is not professional discipline. It is a brutal political tool. It is another calculated tactic in a long, exhaustion-inducing campaign to silence dissent across our universities and our campuses. They don't want independent thinkers in the country. What they want is a submissive assembly line culture that nods along to power, that doesn't disagree. But the script this time flipped. The institutional overreach triggered a ferocious public backlash from senior advocates, civil society, and fellow law students across India, and surprise, surprise, even ABVP. And that's when came also the ultimate snub. Chief Justice Suryakant himself pulled up the Bar Council, publicly slapping down their unwarranted interference. Justice Kant made it crystal clear, asking, "Who is the Bar Council of India to come between the students and me? BCI has no business here." The Supreme Court immediately barred the BCI from taking any coercive action. Now faced with a severe judicial reprimand and a growing rebellion across national law universities, including a massive protest from over 700 students and alumni at NLSIU Bengaluru, Manan Kumar Mishra had to execute a U-turn. He withdrew the letters and issued an apology to the student community. In his Independence Day statement, he wrote that an expression of regret is not a matter of prestige or ego. Really, Mr. Mishra? And that students' feelings matter. Really, Mr. Mishra? How convenient. Let's be clear. This apology is not an act of sudden change of heart. It is a strategic retreat. If the Supreme Court hadn't intervened, and if we had not outraged, and if the legal community hadn't stood up, those 415 NALSAR graduates would be fighting for justice today. An apology from Anand Kumar Mishra cannot erase the fact that a statutory body thought it could use professional gatekeeping as a weapon of intimidation. The chilling effect they intended to create has left a permanent scar on academic freedom. The NALSA students showed us that the future of Indian law will not be bullied into silence, but we must remain vigilant. The BCI tried to teach these young minds a lesson in submission. Instead, the students taught the BCI a lesson in the Constitution. And as the voices grow louder for the resignation of Anand Kumar Mishra, I hope sense would prevail. Today, we are witnessing the closing of a dark chapter in India's internal security history. For decades, the Red Corridor was a wound on a map, a landscape defined by isolation, fear, and the clatter of gunfire. But on August 7, 2026, the National Handloom Day, in the heart of Raipur, that sound was officially replaced by the rhythmic beat of a different kind, the steady, confident footfalls of women who have walked out of the shadows of terrorism and into the sunlight of a new nation. This is the story of Lenin to Linen. Look closely at these faces. Poonam Devi, Medium Gangi, Madhvi Devi, Madhvi Nadani, Madhvi Male, Podium Raje, Dodi Rame, Madkam Bhime, and Poonam Jyoti. Once these names were associated with the armed insurgency in the dense forests of Sukma and Bijapur, they were part of a movement that sought to dismantle the state. Today, they stand as the ultimate symbols of the state's triumph. On this National Handloom Day, these women didn't just walk a ramp, they marched over the ruins of an ideology that has finally been defeated. This isn't just a local success story, it is a national victory. In 2014, Naxalism had its grip on 126 districts across this country. Today, that number has been slashed to just 2. India's uncompromising mission to uproot this menace by March 31, 2026 has transformed from a vision into a historical reality. We are seeing the near collapse of the Red Corridor. More than 12,000 kilometers of roads, 586 fortified police stations, and around 8,500 mobile towers have reclaimed land that was once a no-go zone. Security operations like Operation Black Forest didn't just neutralize threats, they paved the way for the return of dignity. So the transition from Lenin to Linen is a perfect metaphor for this hard-won war. It represents a fundamental shift from the rigid dogma of violent insurgency to the fluid grace of mainstream integration. From hidden forest camps to the spotlight of the national stage. From the destruction of the past to the weaving of a new future. When these 9 women, once armed with rifles, strode onto that stage in Raipur, draped in traditional Kosa silk, the message was clear. Naxalism is being defeated, not just by the strength of our forces, but by the irresistible power of peace, development, and second chances. This ramp walk is our victory lap. It is a proof that when a nation decides to end a war, it doesn't just silence the guns, it gives its citizens a new life, a new identity, and a new reason to believe in the Constitution. The Red Corridor is fading. A new path is being woven. What do you think about it? Do let me know in your comments below. We like to believe that our courts are temples of justice presided over by individuals who are beyond reproach. However, on August 12, 2026, a Parliamentary Inquiry Committee tabled a report in the Lok Sabha on Justice Yashwant Varma. The verdict: all charges of gross misconduct stand proved against the former Delhi and Allahabad High Court judge. Now for that, to understand what it was all about, we'll have to look at the timeline. And it was much followed by the media. On March 14, 2025, there was an accidental fire at Justice Varma's Lutyens Delhi bungalow. where the firefighters uncovered massive unsealed piles of burnt and half-burnt 500 currency notes hidden in a storeroom. In July 2025, over 158 members of parliament signed an impeachment motion against the judge. In August 2026, the parliamentary panel, which was formed after the impeachment motion was signed and submitted, found his explanations evasive, unsatisfactory, and nailed him for tampering with evidence. Now, think about how this scandal came to light. It wasn't a proactive anti corruption bureau, an audit, or an internal whistleblower that caught a sitting High Court judge with an unexplained mountain of cash. It was an accidental electrical fire. The moment that heat got too high, Justice Varma on April 9, 2026 resigned. He packed his bags, walked away from the inquiry, and withdrew his defense. Why? Because in India, resignation before inquiry is complete is the final cop-out for those in the higher judiciary. Let's talk about the process of removing a judge in India. Under the Constitution, removing a Supreme Court or a High Court judge requires an impeachment motion passed by two-thirds majority in both houses of the parliament in the same session. In the history of independent India, there has not been a single judge who has ever been successfully impeached. Every single time a judge is cornered with ironclad proof of corruption, they deploy the same cop-out, resignation. Justice V. Ramaswamy in 1993 survived because political parties abstained from voting. Justice Soumitra Sen in 2011 resigned the moment the Rajya Sabha passed the motion forcing the Lok Sabha to drop the matter. Justice P.D. Dinakaran, this was in 2011 again. He resigned before the inquiry committee could even finish its report. And now it's former Justice Yashwant Varma. The moment an independent panel chaired by Supreme Court Judge Justice Arvind Kumar proved that he had tacit or active control over unexplained cash, he resigned to make the parliamentary removal proceedings legally meaningless. But, however, this time the executive is pushing back. In an unprecedented move, the President of India and the Union Law Ministry have kept Justice Varma's resignation in abeyance, as if they haven't yet accepted Justice Varma's resignation. They refuse to formally notify it. They want to force this impeachment through a set of precedents that a judicial robe cannot be used as an insurance policy against criminal prosecution. But let's ask the deeper, uncomfortable question. What is the judiciary's internal accountability mechanism? For decades, the judiciary has fiercely guarded its independence through the collegium system, a system where judges appoint judges behind closed doors. They argued this was necessary to keep political interference out, which is absolutely a fair ask, and that is how it should be. However, is it working? Because in guarding the gates against politics, they have built an opaque wall that keeps public accountability totally out of that system. When a citizen faces corruption, or any other representative in the bureaucracy faces corruption, they're dragged through police stations and trial for decades. But when a judge is found with stacks of burnt currency, they get to challenge internal panels in anonymous petitions before their own peers. They hide behind the title of XXX and quietly retire with full pensions unless Parliament intervenes. The Yashwant Varma indictment is a wake-up call. If the law is to be respected, it must apply equally to those who interpret it. The institutional shield must be dismantled. True independence of the judiciary cannot coexist with immunity for corruption. And now to the recently concluded Monsoon Session. The last Monsoon Session was billed as a crucial battleground for national issues, from the NEET paper leak to Ram Mandir loot, which is a topic of concern. Instead, it ended in a near total washout. We were hoping that there would be discussion, deliberation, decision, but no, it was a washout. During this 19-day monsoon session, the Lok Sabha functioned for just 15% of its scheduled time. The Rajya Sabha fared slightly better, but still only managed 33%. To put that in perspective, except for 2 single days, the Lok Sabha did not function for more than 1 hour per day. Imagine an entire House of Representatives meeting for less than 60 minutes a day. Because of the disruption and continued logjam, the Speaker had to adjourn the Lok Sabha 35 times, while the Rajya Sabha was adjourned 37 times. This session marks the lowest functioning capacity for a monsoon session. Last was the infamous budget session of 2023. Historically, we have to look back. The last was the winter session of 2010, which was entirely wiped out by disruptions. To see a breakdown this severe, and you do remember at that time the opposition, which was the BJP, called parliamentary disruption as a democratic way of showing protests. Over the last 15 years, this has become a predictable pattern. Now, why should this matter to you? It matters because of something called as the question hour. Question hour is the one time during the day when ordinary MPs get to ask union ministers their question and demand answers on behalf of the public. They ask about fund allocations, local infrastructure, and national crisis. In this session, question hour was essentially destroyed. We did not even see much of zero hour happening, which again gives an MP a chance to raise concerns of national importance or on the constituency they come from. In the Lok Sabha, the total time spent on oral questions over the entire 19 days was just 9 minutes. In the Rajya Sabha, it was just under 2 hours. Ministers responded to only 2 oral questions in the Lok Sabha and 16 in the Rajya Sabha. When question hour is cancelled or disrupted, so as for the zero hour as well, the government is handed a free pass. There's no scrutiny, there's no accountability, and it's business as usual. The visible aspect of parliamentary functioning, the part where the executive branch has to answer to the people, is completely blanked out, which works beautifully for the government, which refuses to be held accountable. You might think, well, if they aren't talking, at least they aren't passing bad laws. You're wrong on that front too. They're passing laws, and they're doing it without talking, without discussion, deliberation, debate. Even though the houses were disrupted, the government managed to pass 11 bills through the parliament. But look at how they were passed. The Lok Sabha took roughly 5 minutes to pass 7 of these bills. Imagine 5 minutes for important bills that will impact your life. 5 minutes per law. The only bill that saw any extended debate was the Public Examinations Prevention of Unfair Means Amendment Bill 2026, which increases fines and punishment for exam cheating. And if you would recall, this was pushed through even in 2024 before the general elections, after a strong demand was coming at the back of paper leaks. And it came as an amendment in 2026 to address the public anger over paper leaks. I've been putting up weekly updates on my explainer, Parliament with PC. Now, what happens to the rest? Both houses rushed through this massive complex bills in about 18 hours total. Another controversial piece of legislation, which is the FCRA, which was being discussed ad infinitum by the media, that it would come, not come, not come, finally was sent to a joint parliamentary committee. The question is, when laws are passed in 5 minutes and don't get scrutinized, and you also see parliamentary committees being bypassed, experts not being consulted, stakeholders not having a say, what does it speak of us? This is speed pass legislation, and it results in poorly drafted laws that affect our everyday life. This brings us to a bigger structural question. The Treasury benches accuse the opposition of running away from debates to politicize issues, which is an unfair charge to make. The opposition accuses the government of hiding from scrutiny on major national crises. What is the result ultimately? Both sides stick to their guns, no one ceding an inch. You see a complete breakdown of the system. Both show it as a win on their side. For opposition benches, it is about, look how we brought the government on the back foot. However, for a government that has a lot to answer, but has been brazening it out, get an easy route out, side disruption and move on. Parliament is supposed to be a place of friction. It is supposed to be where ideas clash so that the best policies emerge. Discussion and debate and dissent are essential parts of parliamentary democracy. But when friction turns into a total freeze, the democratic engine stops to work. We are left with an executive branch that rules by decree and a legislature that acts as a rubber stamp. Every minute of a washed out session costs crores of taxpayer money. But the real cost isn't financial, it's democratic. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share this video if you want more data-backed truth. And also let us know what would you want us to deep dive into next and what subject we should be speaking on and bringing into public discussion and domain. Thank you so much for watching and see you next week.